Iron Man 3 had one of the biggest opening weekend box office performances of all time. But in the wake of Iron Man 3's release, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. trailer had somewhat of an indifferent reaction from fans. And with new Marvel movies not quite as highly anticipated as Iron Man 3 and, let's say, the upcoming Avengers 2, are superhero movies on a bubble, and is that bubble about to burst?
I've always been a big fan of all the Marvel movies, superhero movies in general, but I feel like we're getting a little bit oversaturated. I mean, Dark Knight's come to an end, we're getting Man of Steel soon, and I don't know if Man of Steel is going to be a trilogy or not, but I feel like people could get tired very fast. I feel like the Avengers was this big build-up, and that was great, but that's not proven success. That's just a bunch of awesome events leading to one huge event. That doesn't mean that this isn't going to pop soon. I don't know if people want to commit to this.
A lot of the very recognizable figures in the comics world, at least in the superhero genre, have had their films made already. That's not to say that there aren't other characters to mine from, but you don't necessarily have iconic people like Captain America or Spider-Man to make fresh films out of. There's other new properties on the way, but we're not necessarily getting huge properties. We're seeing some of these medium budget Marvel movies possibly going into production. So I don't know. I feel like this could possibly be like the Western, which once was super, super popular, but at a certain point we saw less of them.
I mean, I'm really excited for a Doctor Strange movie because, like, that was the comic book my dad read, and it's the comic book I read when, like, my dad let me read comic books. But I don't know anyone else who's really excited for a Doctor Strange movie other than my friends who are also really big into comic books, and they will just see any comic book movie because that's what we do.
I mean, even if we get there, which I'm sure we'll get there, I don't know who's actually excited for that. Who's just a regular movie-going like person who likes to see like summer blockbusters. I don't know who thinks, oh, there's a new Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch movie coming out. I'm gonna head over to the local Cinemaplex and watch that.
And I think part of that will rely on Marvel's ability to put out quality films. I personally wasn't the biggest fan of Thor or Captain America, but there are a lot of people who enjoyed both those movies, and Iron Man was a success despite a lot of people not necessarily being familiar with the comic. If you find the right actor, if you cast it correctly and you have a good script and stuff, you can bring in that audience. You know, I willingly paid for some of those movies that I would not have had an interest in had they been pitched to me, per se.
People want to hop on this trend, and eventually it's just going to be too many spoons in the soup.
Depending on if they rush them out of the gate, who they're pandering to, like if they go for comic book fans or try and make them more commercial, and how that goes over, I think really is going to be the determining factor in if this bubble pops.
I also feel a lot of what is that it could just fall under its own weight, because when we get to the point where it's Iron Man 5 and that's coming directly off of events from Iron Man 4, but also ties into Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with the Avengers 3.5 tie-in, it's just going to fall under its own weight.
That's also tied into the TV show.
Yeah, it also depends on what they decide to do, even with the existing franchises, because I know they've said things. A director at Marvel in the past said that they viewed Iron Man and Tony Stark as something that could be replaceable, like James Bond. And I know there are tons of fans who would not be comfortable with that, because to them and to Stan Lee,
it's all about Robert Downey.
Even Stan Lee said Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man.
They could find a very good replacement, but just the change could be enough to push some viewers thinking, oh, well, it's jumped the shark.
In the actual comics now, Tony Stark looks drastically different than before Iron Man takes over. He looks almost exactly like Robert Downey.
I wanted to bring up also the idea that the Batman franchise has ended. There are some rumors out there that it will get relaunched fairly soon. That also happened to Spider-Man with the new Amazing Spider-Man trilogy that we're probably getting. And at a certain point, are we just going to be seeing the same faces? At a certain point, these are all franchises, and you're not necessarily getting new fans if you're just continuing the franchise.
And these people aren't cartoons; they're getting older.
Yeah.
Chris Evans was very public that he was glad that he got a shorter deal.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it can last.
That does it for this Pretentious Film Majors discussion. Be sure to click above me to subscribe to our channel. You can also find out more about our show at facebook.com/PretentiousFilmMajors, twitter.com/PFMShow, or the official Pretentious Film Majors website, PretentiousFilmMajors.com. YouTubers, are you interested in new superhero films? Let us know in the comments below, and our favorite comment will win a code for a free Redbox DVD rental.